Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra Hassan. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Prime Minister addresses the G20 Interfaith Forum in Italy. Government ministers who provide jokes to the country have no answer to any of the problems in the country. The fate of the government will be decided in the People's Court, says the leader of the opposition. A common development plan is imperative for the country to recover, says the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. School students to be administered Pfizer vaccines. Children with special needs to be inoculated in the first phase. Kerawalapitiya power plant to be handed over to an American firm pursuant to verbal approval from the cabinet. A revelation from the leader of the JVP.
Cabinet mandaleta hangamin thamai me teendu tirana ganna.
Another earthquake reported from the seas of Hambantota. Sri Lanka's squad for the ICC World T20 announced. Angelo Matthews and Lasith Malinga overlooked.
On to your lead story now. Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, who is currently engaged in an official tour of Italy, attended the G20 Interfaith Forum today.
This year's Interfaith Forum is held under the theme Time to Heal, Peace Among Cultures, Understanding Between Religions. The inaugural session of the forum was held in 2014 in Australia and thereafter was held annually, hosted by G20 member nations. This year's forum is being held at the University of Bologna with the attendance of religious groups, interreligious communities, religious leaders, intellectuals, development and humanitarian organizations, as well as business and civil society activists. Economic frameworks, environmental challenges, women's and children's rights, employment, humanitarian aid, healthcare, education, freedom of religion or belief, global security, governance, human rights and the rule of law will be discussed at length during the course of the forum. Issuing a message in light of the Interfaith Forum, Pope Francis says, and I quote, "We must also help each other all together to combat the religious illiteracy that permeates all cultures. It is a widespread ignorance that reduces the experience of belief to rudimentary dimensions of the human and seduces vulnerable souls into adhering to fundamentalist slogans. Above all, we need to educate, promoting equitable, solidarity-based and integral development that increases opportunities for schooling and education, because where poverty and ignorance reign unchecked, fundamentalist violence takes hold more easily." End quote.
Leader of the opposition Sajith Premadasa says government ministers are providing jokes to the country every day and they have no answer to any of the problems that have arisen in the country. The opposition leader adds the fate of the government will be decided in the People's Court if it fails to rescue people from the unfortunate fate that they are facing.
The opposition leader issued a media release today bearing the headline, quote, "The fate of the government will be decided in the People's Court," unquote. In his release, the opposition leader says, quote, "Our country is going bankrupt like no other country due to the COVID disaster. The country has to face these serious consequences owing to arbitrary, short-sighted and irresponsible governance," unquote. He alleges the government is gambling with the lives of the people in line with its political and selfish agendas, adding, and I quote, "Future generations will also have to experience its tragic consequences," unquote. Expressing his sentiments on the woeful situation the people are currently facing, the opposition leader states, quote, "At a time when the people are so helpless that they are unable to eat not 3 meals but at least 1 nutrition meal a day, the prosperity of the government has overflowed to the point where some government parliamentarians are issuing statements for people to limit their 3 meals a day to 2 or 1, unquote. Sajith Premadasa believes the abnormal rise in the prices of commodities will result in an era of quote-unquote famine-stricken country with long queues forming as a consequence. It further notes, and I quote, Every time an issue arises, the government only changes heads and characters rather than providing a sustainable and long-lasting solution to that issue, unquote. In conclusion, the leader of the opposition says, quote, the government should not hesitate to manage the macroeconomic variables and provide a financial stimulus to the people of this country, unquote.
The Sri Lanka Freedom Party's opinion on Sri Lanka's economic climate.
The economic crisis in the country, coupled with the dollar shortage, is not something which occurred suddenly. This is a result of poor financial and foreign exchange management of those who governed the country over the last 5 decades or so. I do not wish to speak about my government because it was in turmoil through various divisions. This matter cannot be linked to a single specialist. The resolution to this lies within the creation of a common development plan for the nation. As far as I can observe, this matter cannot be resolved instantly. A long-term plan is required. Only a mechanism which includes public cohesion, national unity, robust economic policies, including policies for agriculture and the economy, can enable us to recover from this crisis. When I hear most people's opinions, I feel they are content whatever comes their way. We cannot afford to carry such an attitude, especially in the case of a country. We must have a target and objective. What happened to the country? Some are cynical. Some are poking fun while others are in despair. The government isn't following an ad hoc policy. It was not our intention to live in a country such as this. Everyone must commit to mobilize a mechanism to ensure our country's progress.
Farmers' protests re-emerge.
Our cameras captured scarecrows and placards on display along the wayside of the road from Nagapokana to the Jayantipura Hospital junction in Polonnaruwa. The move had been carried out to express dissent, urging authorities to set a fair price for paddy harvests and to assure timely distribution of fertilizer.
We urge for a fair price for paddy. Paddy should be offered for at least 60 rupees. If not, there is no point. We are helpless, especially in terms of obtaining fertilizer. I cultivate vegetables but do not have sufficient stocks of fertilizer. Let's travel into the village. Paddy cultivations are most popular. However, we find it difficult to sell pepper as well. One farmer has 100 kilos or more. We do not need anything else, only the fertilizer. Roshan is the parliamentarian from our electorate. We have displayed his shirt too. He never came here since being elected to parliament. He had come here last week to declare open the Jayantipura city.
Convening a media briefing, the National Agrarian Collective expressed views regarding the hardships of farmers.
The
government is clueless on what it does, like a bus driver who spits without thinking twice. They are not formulating a proper plan together with the farmers. Be it the health sector or any other sector, they are always late to formulate a plan. If you hammer a nail onto a wooden plank and remove it later, the piece of wood will have a hole in it. The government's actions are similar to this. They are making decisions after obtaining advice from people who are clueless on what they are providing advice on. In the end, what they achieved is worthless.
Another media briefing organized by an agrarian collective was held in Dehiyattakandiya today.
Even though the government has set 50 rupees as the certified price for a kilo of paddy, the farmers are finding it difficult to stick to that. The production cost of a kilo of paddy has increased. It's good if farmers can sell it for 50 rupees, but according to current circumstances, farmers find it difficult to even settle their debts by sticking to the 50 rupee certified price. The decisions of a government should be made after considering the production cost of paddy. A family of a farmer earns their living for 6 months by selling these harvests. This is their lifeblood. Therefore, the government must consider these factors when setting a certified price for paddy. According to the government, the trader who is in the village cannot weigh the paddy. However, there is no government entity within the village to get this done either. The government should not wait till we pluck the harvest to weigh them. The authorities should start preparing warehouses and be prepared for weighing as soon as the paddy is planted. The government should get together with private entities and initiate a mechanism This is Handungamuwa Matale. Farmers of Handungamuwa cultivated green gram in a bid to earn a living from an intermediary season in the least. But, unfortunately, nearly 200 acres of green gram cultivations of the Karaugahawewa Agrarian Organization are on the brink of going to waste. This is the Vaskamu National Park. Towards the night, elephants encroach on our farmlands. We are not cultivating for the fun of it, along with our children. This is done so that we can exist. This is done by pawning even our wives' jewelry. There is no fertilizer, nor pesticides. The farmers who hoped to release themselves from a mountain of debt by cultivating in an intermediary season are now in total despair. By today, they have nothing to do but lament at their cultivations. Pesticides which used to cost around 1,000 rupees now cost around 5,000 rupees. We cannot make compost. We have invested 50 to 60,000 rupees in these farmlands. Those were obtained through loans with an interest. We have no relief. Not even pesticides are being offered at a subsidized rate.
What will happen to the produce cultivated by farmers amidst severe hardships? Economic centres are the main locations at which produce of farmers are sold to the public. As of now, a decision has been made to keep the economic centres open for the public. Even though farmers were prepared to sell their produce to the public, wholesale and retail market mechanisms at economic centres seem to be dysfunctional today as well. Farmers obtained a low price for their produce owing to the reduced number of buyers.
Trading activities operated at a slow pace today. Therefore, opening economic activities is pointless. There must be a proper mechanism in place to sell the vegetables. We are forced to carry out trading activities in a secretive manner. The police launch inspections. Mobile vendors are unable to sell anything. They cannot even sell through mobile services or at a single location. They must stop at some location in order to sell.
The central bank recently imposed import restrictions on 623 items in order to discourage the importation of goods. Views were expressed on the matter today.
As a result of this import restriction, firstly, 4 to 5 top businesses will be able to deposit the required money and import the items into the country. Secondly, a finance cost will be included for these items as well. The price of these items will rise. As a result of this, small and medium-scale businesses will be forced out of the market. Only 4 to 5 businesses will be dominating the market. Prices of goods will be very high. The third issue is that black market shops will begin to operate. At the last presidential election, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa made a very important proposal. He was willing to provide sanitary napkins for the female population in the country. However, the ruling faction used that point in an insulting manner. But nothing is more hilarious than their decision to impose restrictions on importing undergarments into the country.
They claim to be intellectuals. Today, I got an undergarment to show you all. Recently, Bandula said that they can sell undergarments through SUCCESSOR, and this is what they are selling there. If that is the case, we would like to ask Bandula on what will happen to the undergarments sold at the Pamunuwa market. Your government was elected for a reason. You weren't elected to wear undergarments. There is a massive concern with regards to the quality of sugar. I am stating this with responsibility. If I am wrong, prove it. There are wet stocks of sugar sold in PETA. Initiate an investigation on this matter. We will supply you with evidence. These people are selling the confiscated goods at separate shops. As a result of this, 54,000 containers of garlic went out through illegal means. Because the government is not receiving any foreign aid, they have resorted to looting money from garlic stocks. Leader of the JVP revealed of a plot by the government today to sell off national assets to foreign entities.
The cabinet now convenes virtually through Zoom. Basil Rajapaksa, who is in charge of the finance ministry, has presented certain facts and has obtained approval for 40% of the Keravalapatia power plant, the pipeline which carries gas, and the terminal where gas is stored to be sold off to an American firm. Not only that, the Secretary of the Ministry of Finance has been empowered to determine the regulations of the sale, price of the sale, and other details pertaining to the matter. I know personally that certain MPs were disallowed to express their opinions. However, the minutes of the cabinet meetings reveals that the cabinet paper has been approved. We want to ask members of the cabinet, did you see such a cabinet paper? No. For the first time in history, a cabinet has granted approval for a matter based on verbal facts presented by a minister without a cabinet paper even existing.
Lanka පළවෙනි වතාවට කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයක් අදාළ අමාත්‍යවරයා දෙන වාචික කරුණු වලට තීන්දුව ගන්න ලබනවා.
What fate will befall the 13 acres of land at the port?
වරාය අධිකාරියට විශාල ආදායමක් උපයන්නේ.
The Ports Authority is earning a considerable revenue through supplying services. In 2017, the SLPA has earned a revenue of 5.6 billion through this. However, by now, the cabinet has decided to hand this over to the CICT in China for 35 years. According to the agreement, 1 acre of land is being leased for 850,000 per month. Prior to this, lands have been handed over to various firms. One such land is 1 acre and 60 perches in size. It has been handed over to a firm operating in the cement industry. The monthly lease of that land is 2.2 million. However, here, 1 acre has been handed over for a mere 850,000 per month. They are lining their pockets with massive profits by foregoing conducting a proper estimate. In order to legitimize that money, the Parliament approved the Money Laundering Act last week.
සුදු කර ගැනීම සඳහා නේද කඩු සල්ලි සුදු කිරීම පනත පහුගියදා පාර්ලිමේන්තුව අනුමත කරලා දුන්නා.
The resignation of the central bank governor and his successor.
අපි දැක්ක දැන් මහ බැංකුවේ අධිපතිවරයා
The governor of the central bank brought out multiple facts while announcing his resignation. However, the facts he failed to express were greater than those he did. He is a senior professor. Therefore, I believe he will present all these in detail.
එනිසා මම හිතන මේ සියල්ල සවිස්තරාත්මකව ඉදිරිපත් කරાવી කියලා.
කැබිනට් අමාත්‍ය සම්මුඛ හිමි බරපතල
කිසිසේත්ම බෑ මේ පුද්ගලයන්ට මොනතරම් මානසික
Not at all.
තියෙනවද?
What sort of mental illness are they suffering from? That is depicted very clearly. He can go around boasting about it. But in truth, it is not so. For the first time in history, a politician, a minister is resigning to take up the position of central bank governor. What sort of impression will the international community have on our country? Sri Lanka's image in the international arena will be further tarnished by appointing politicians with a tainted track record to an institution which is supposedly independent.
අපේ රටේ ආර්ථිකය පිළිබඳ ජාත්‍යන්තරයේ දැන් ඇති වී තිබෙන චිත්‍රයට වඩා භයානක කළු චිත්‍රයක් හැදෙනවා.
There is criticism leveled over certain actions of the central bank that occurred during the last 2 years. Even we agree with some of these. Economic experts are raising concerns on the decisions we made during these trying times. Therefore, I personally believe that an experienced person should take up the seat of governor, especially during these hard times.
එතකොට හිටපු මේ මහ බැංකුවේ අධිපතිතුමාට මානසික ගැටලු මතුවුණා කියලා එයාට බලපෑමක් වුණා වගේ දෙයක් කියවුණා පහුගිය කාලේ. එහෙම දෙයක් වුණාද? එහෙම වුණා නම් ආණ්ඩුව ඇයි එහෙම දෙයක් කළේ?
He didn't elaborate the reasons for his disappointment. Therefore, we cannot comment on that. However, several rumors on appointing a new governor to the central bank were circulating in society during the past 2 weeks. We do not know whether he felt disappointed after hearing those rumors.
State Minister Nalaka Godaheva expressed these views while attending the inauguration ceremony of the project under the Bulletin program. The project is carried out to renovate an existing pavement at the Bauta Lokamavata in Gampaha. The cost of this project is 20 million rupees.
When the budget allocates a certain amount of funds to a particular ministry, you cannot use it for another purpose. The government was referring to next year's budget. We need to think twice on development projects when drafting next year's budget. As a country, we have been able to overcome more severe situations. However, we will not let the people face such a situation.
Transparency International Sri Lanka warned that the new Finance Act that aims to grant tax amnesty for individuals who voluntarily disclose their undisclosed income and assets could be abused for the purpose of money laundering. In a statement, TISL said this could be prevented only if regulatory authorities take extra measures to counter such attempts. Transparency International Sri Lanka recommended enhanced scrutiny in operation of the tax amnesty. These recommendations include ensure effective application of anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing preventive measures, ensure domestic coordination and cooperation between relevant authorities, and secure international cooperation on tracing the transfer of black money. Commenting on the matter, TISL Executive Director Nadishani Pereira said resorting to such a broad-ranging tax amnesty could possibly allow black money to enter the country and for Sri Lanka to eventually become a haven for such ill-gotten gains. TISL called on all law enforcement and regulatory authorities to ensure that this tax amnesty is not abused by those who could cause detriment to the country by implementing the recommendations and ensuring that the public is kept informed of the safeguards put in place to avert such abuse.
We will be back after this short commercial break with more news relating to COVID-19. Stay with News First.
Do your online shopping with Sambole.lk. Home delivery and pickup now available.
Sambole.lk.
Welcome back to the news. Details of the program to inoculate school children with COVID-19 vaccines was announced today.
We are expecting to take delivery of a consignment carrying 4 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine to arrive in the island during October. We intend to administer these vaccines to school children. We have also received recommendations to use these jabs to inoculate children with special needs. Accordingly, we have made arrangements to administer the Pfizer vaccine to children with special needs starting from next week. Stance of medical specialists on inoculating children with COVID-19 vaccines. We have recommended the Pfizer vaccine to children, specifically to the ages between 12 to 18. We believe that providing the vaccine to children can be done in 3 phases. In the first phase, the vaccine will be given to children with comorbidities. That will be close to 30,000. In the second phase, the vaccine will be given to children who are going to sit for the GCE O-level and A-level examinations. Has the quarantine curfew brought forth favourable results? We have witnessed a 40% drop in the number of deaths and a 50% drop in the number of infections. But do not make the mistake of being complacent with this situation. Do not take this lightly. According to the travel advisories issued by various countries to their population, Sri Lanka sits in the red zone or is considered a nation with high risk. We were at a point where the hospitals were reaching its full capacity. But I am happy to say that this situation has reduced by 50%. The WHO has pointed out that if the government decides to maintain this curfew until the 2nd of October, close to 10,000 lives can be saved.
The data scam.
Professionals continue to query the deletion of data related to the National Medicines Regulatory Authority from the government's cloud database. It has been 2 months since the incident took place. 1 month since the complaint was lodged. The CID is yet to record a statement from the officer who alleged that the data was deleted accidentally. After releasing the arrested Chief Executive Officer, they are boasting of their achievements. We believe that there is a conspiracy behind the deletion of the data of the NMRA. Among the data deleted was data pertaining to COVID-19. We see a new conspiracy. We feel that data pertaining to vaccinations and importation of antigen test kits have been deleted. And those who are responsible give complacent excuses, saying that they manually stored this data. It has come to a point where even we are capable of writing down what is necessary and present it.
The Geological Survey and Mines Bureau said a magnitude 4.1 earthquake was reported in the deep seas south of Sri Lanka at 1:33 this afternoon. Chairman of the Bureau, Anurwal Pula, said the earthquake was recorded some 160 kilometers away from Hambantota. The GSMB said that there was no tsunami threat to Sri Lanka, and its chairman, Anurwal Pula, said that 2 tremors within the country and 3 tremors in the seas have been reported over the last month. Sri Lanka is set to face the United Nations Human Rights Council meetings starting tomorrow.
The 48th Human Rights Council session is set to begin with an oral update by Human Rights Commissioner Michelle Bachelet on 3 countries including Sri Lanka. In its resolution 46/1, the Human Rights Council requested OHCHR to enhance its monitoring and reporting on the situation of human rights in Sri Lanka, including on progress in reconciliation and accountability, and to present an oral update to the Human Rights Council at its 48th session. Human Rights Watch recently said the United Nations Human Rights Council should maintain its rigorous scrutiny of Sri Lanka's worsening human rights situation and press for genuine improvements. Human Rights Watch said at the Council's upcoming session, which begins tomorrow, UN member countries should express their alarm about the ongoing abuses by the current government and the weakening of independent government institutions, civilian governance and the rule of law. These countries should demonstrate their willingness to press the Sri Lankan government to meet its international human rights obligations.
Up next is Crime Watch.
Crime Watch.
A 27-year-old person was stabbed to death at the Pelengahahena junction in Sapukaskanda. The deceased has been identified as Yehan Chanuka de Silva. According to a relative of the victim, Yehan Chanuka de Alves arrived at his family residence in Makola at around 8 p.m. last night and had left with a friend thereafter. Yehan Chanuka de Alves was killed a kilometre away from his house. According to evidence gathered by the police, emergency services police officers had arrived at the location and had admitted the injured individual to a hospital. However, he had succumbed to his injuries upon admission. His friend, who is believed to have carried out the stabbing, was admitted to the accident ward of the Colombo National Hospital with multiple lacerations. According to the police, the friend had arrived at the hospital on a 3-wheeler. Statements have been recorded by the Sapukaskanda police from the suspect. Police stated that the suspect, who is believed to have stabbed the victim, had lived abroad for 8 years before returning to Sri Lanka. According to the family members of the deceased, he had registered his marriage on the 19th of last month and had booked for the wedding's photo shoot to be held today. The knife used for the stabbing is currently in the custody of the police. Was it an argument that led to the dispute between the two friends that ultimately ended in the death of Yehan Chanuka de Alves? What was the reason behind their dispute? Police investigations continue while the reason behind the murder remains a mystery.
The Sri Lanka squad for this year's ICC World T20 was announced earlier today.
The 15-member squad led by Dasun Shanaka also includes 4 reserve players. Dhananjay De Silva has been named the vice-captain. Kusal Janit Pereira, Dinesh Chandimal, Avishka Fernando, Bhanuka Rajapaksa and Charith Asalanka have been included in the squad as batsmen, while Vanidu Hasaranga and Kamindu Mendis have been named as all-rounders. Chamika Karunaratne, Nuwan Pradeep, Dushmanta Chamira and Lahiru Madhushanka have been entered to the squad as fast bowlers, with Praveen Jayavikrama and Mahesh Deekshana being named as spin bowlers in the squad. Lahiru Kumara, Binra Fernando, Akila Dhananjaya and Pulina Tharanga will be the reserve players.
Won the Life Science Prize under the Future Science Prize, a top scientific award which comes with a prize of $1 million.
Professor Malik Piris won this award along with Hong Kong medical expert Yuen Kwong Yung. The 2 medical experts were praised for their discoveries of SARS-CoV-1 as the causative agent for the global SARS outbreak in 2003 and its zoonotic origin, which helped combat COVID-19 and emerging infectious diseases. The Future Science Prize is given in 3 categories, namely Life Science Prize, Physical Science Prize and Mathematics and Computer Science Prize with $1 million of prize money for each award. Professor Malik Piris graduated from the University of Ceylon in 1972, received his doctoral training in virology at the University of Oxford and training in clinical virology at the Royal Victoria Infirmary in the United Kingdom. He is currently the chair of virology and a professor in medical science at the School of Public Health in the University of Hong Kong. Professor Piris also co-directs the WHO Influenza Reference Laboratory and the HKU Pasteur Research Pole. He was awarded the Chevalier de la Légion Honour France in 2007, the Mahathir Science Award, the Académie Sciences Malaysia in 2007 and the Silver Bohemia Star Hong Kong SAR in 2008. In 2006, Times magazine selected him as one of the 63 Asian heroes of the last 60 years for his contribution to the control of infectious disease epidemics.
And that's a wrap of this edition of Primetime News. For the Newsfirst team, I am Azra Hassan with our sign language interpreter for tonight, Brian B. Cruz. Take care and good night.